Hello, my name is Andy and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. Welcome back to Bassetlaw and to the parish of Clumber and Hardwick. Clumber and Hardwick is a civil parish in the Bassetlaw district in the county of Nottinghamshire. Today's episode will be a little different to usual owing to the fact that this really has no discernible settlement. Despite that, there is a village here, although I will use that term loosely. Hardwick village is the settlement in question, and we'll see that as we journey around. Or at least that's what I thought. You'll see later why that's not the case. The parish consists of Clumber Park, which takes up a large majority of the area, the central visitor facilities surrounding the church and gardens, and Hardwick village is 1 mile to the northeast. We're 22 miles north of the city of Nottingham and 3.5 miles southeast of the market town of Worksop here. The parish touches Babworth, Carburton, Elksley, Pelham-Clinton and Welbeck, and is relatively low lying. The land height ranges from 35 metres alongside Clumber Water Lake and rises towards the west to a height of 75 metres. The A614 Nottingham to Blythe Road forms most of the eastern parish boundary. The park is primarily accessed by Lime Tree Avenue, which branches from this main road and into Carburton. Apleyhead Lodge, an arch at the north entrance of the avenue, is outside the boundary in Elksley parish. We'll see that later at the very end of our trip around Clumber. Clumber Park is listed as Grade 1 on the Register of Historic Parks and Gardens. So with a park this size, it's unsurprising there's plenty of maps in this place, and this one is really good because this one shows us some of the woods that we have here. So I'm currently here sort of where this 17 is. I'm heading for this, which is the ornamental bridge. And you can see here that nursery wood is very close to us here. That'll be over there somewhere. And you can see as well, we've got Holywell wood, we've got Clumber Old wood, we've got Burnt Oak wood, Heron Hill wood, Hardwick wood, Ash Tree Hill wood. There's plenty of them, there's loads of them. And this map tells you everything you need to know if you're interested in the names of the woods. And you'll notice as well that running through the entire park, we have Lime Tree Avenue. Now that's about 4 miles long, I believe, from start to finish, or at least that's what I think, because here there's a road sign and it says that Carburton is 4 miles away along this road. And of course, those buildings there, those are the entrance piers and lodges that we filmed in the Carburton episode. So it's about 4 miles through the entire park. There you go. And of course, in the middle of it all, we have Clumber Lake, which is also known as Clumber Water. We're going to see plenty of shots of that, and plenty of shots of this as well. This area here, very interesting part of Clumber Park. The name Clumber was recorded as Clunbrae at the time of the Domesday Survey and may have evolved from a lump or heavy clod of earth. It may also refer to a clump or patch of trees or plants, referring to the state of the rough boggy ground that the area was composed of prior to the estate being here. Clumber is certainly the kind of place that you need a full day to explore thoroughly, that's for sure. Clumber is a country park primarily now, but originally there was a country house here, part of a much larger estate. The area is within Sherwood Forest and has close historical associations with the Dukes of Newcastle, being part of a wider region known as the Dukeries. The area was formerly a ducal estate of the Pelham-Clinton family, also known as the Dukes of Newcastle, and is now owned by the National Trust. There are 26 listed buildings in Clumber and Hardwick. The first house at Clumber was built by Henry Pelham-Clinton, 2nd Duke of Newcastle, a distant relation of John Holler's. The central core of the house was a ducal hunting lodge. It was built around this with red brick, the architect being Stephen Wright. The house comprised this large central block with 4 wings. Other features of the park were subsequently created, including Clumber Water between 1774 and 1789, and beside this, a Greek temple and a 3-arch stone bridge and cascade. There was also built a Roman Doric seat alcove and grotto, along with a series of 5 gates designed by Wright. In 1879, a fire burnt down much of the core of the house. The central part of the house was rebuilt to an Italianate style by Charles Barry Jr. At the height of its extent in 1910, Clumber Park covered 3,400 acres and was 11 miles in circumference. However, a further fire would damage the property again in 1912. This time the estate would deteriorate, and in 1937 there was a series of sales which included the antique garden ornaments. The house was then demolished in 1938 in anticipation of inheritance taxes. The Earl of Lincoln was originally planning to build a new house at Clumber. However, this was abandoned when the park was requisitioned by the army during the Second World War and used as an ammunition dump and test area for trench digging machines. The grounds were also put up for sale and purchased by the National Trust in 1946. In 2011, the parish had a population of 198, a figure which includes that of Carburton, as we discussed in the last episode. Ethnically, only one person who lives here identified as anything other than white British in 2019, accounting for just 0.5% of the population. Predominantly, many of the parish residents are clustered around Hardwick village. Outside of this, there's a light scattering of farms, farmhouses, estate lodges and cottages amongst the wider, mainly forested setting. There are some open fields in the east too. The average house in Clumber and Hardwick has a value of around £166,000. So unlike Thoresby Park, which you will have seen a couple of weeks ago in the Newark and Sherwood series, which is not too far from here, you actually do have to pay to come into Clumber Park. It cost me a £5, which, to be fair, it's worth paying considering the amount of things we're going to see in here. So yeah, if you fancy coming to Clumber Park for the day, it'll cost you £5 for one adult. I'm not quite sure about the family ticket prices, but certainly for one adult, it's 5 of your English pounds. In the National Trust's hands, Clumber Park is presently run as a non-profit visitor attraction, utilising the auxiliary buildings from the estate. As landowner, they also run Hardwick Village as a commercial entity. People who come to Clumber these days can enjoy a raft of amenities here. These include a woodland play area, a cycle hub, discovery centre, garden tea house, the Central Bark Cafe, pleasure grounds and a walled kitchen garden. The park has bicycles for hire, and this here is the laundry yard. Clumber has a visitor centre housed in the old stable block, part of which houses a display on the history of the park. There's also a shop and a restaurant here too. Rather unsurprisingly, there's plenty of recreational facilities. The long-distance Robin Hood Way path runs past both the core visitor area and the Hardwick Village. Route 6 of the National Cycle Network passes through the park, linking it to Sherwood Forest and Sherwood Pines. The park is used by walkers and has several miles of paths and cycle tracks surrounding Clumber Water. There's a campsite to the north of Lime Tree Avenue, and there's a park run which takes place in the grounds every Saturday. The 4-acre walled kitchen garden has a glass house 450 feet long. It was once heated by an underfloor system fired by local coal, allowing exotic plants to be grown all year round. The garden grows locally derived varieties such as the Clayworth Price Pink. That's a type of celery, and it also grows more than 101 varieties of apple from the Nottinghamshire and East Midlands region, including the Sisson's Worksop Newton apple. Close to the main parking area is a cricket pitch with a thatched roof pavilion in the style of a cottage clad in rustic split logs. There's one church in the core visitor area, the Church of England Parish Church of St Mary the Virgin. It was built in the late 19th century for the Duke and the estate. The church is on a cruciform plan and has a central tower which contains one bell and has a 175-foot spire rising out of an octagonal corona. The The nave interior is plain, but the chancel is decorated with carvings. The stained glass is by Charles E. McKemp. The organ was installed in 1889 by Gray and Davison. The River Poulter runs through the parish, passing Hardwick village. Clumber water is a lake formed from the river. Clumber water was formed by building a dam at the bottom end of the estate, and the riverbed was excavated to create a wide expanse of water. The lake has been affected by subsidence caused by coal mining and UK coal-funded remedial work in the 1980s and again in 2004. The lowering of the water level during this work revealed the charred remains of the Lincoln, a 1/3 scale naval frigate which the Duke had bought in 1871 and which was destroyed by fire in the 1940s. An ornamental bridge was erected at the western end. The bridge, which consists of 3 unequal arches with balustrading along the top, was designed by Stephen Wright and is 230 feet long. It's a Grade 2 listed structure. In March 2018, it suffered extensive damage after a car was deliberately driven into it. The bridge was closed and has remained permanently so to vehicles. Police divers recovered hundreds of pieces of broken stone knocked into the river as a training exercise. Below the ornamental bridge, a weir drops the level by around 3.3 feet. In Victorian times, the park had 2 independent water supply systems, one supplying the house and its associated buildings, and the other supplying the farm and Hardwick village. Now let's take a drive up Lime Tree Avenue from the visitor centre towards Hardwick and Apleyhead Lodge at the northern end. Okay, so a little bit of bad planning on my part. I've driven up Lime Tree Avenue with the intention of going into Hardwick Village, but as you can see, although you might not be able to see from there because I'm a little bit far away, if I just walk a bit closer towards these gates, as you can see, if I was to drive down here into Hardwick Village, I would have to pay again because there's another toll booth. Now, I didn't realise you can actually drive into Hardwick Village from the original sort of visitor centre area, but now I've come back out again, I'll probably have to pay again, but that's okay, it doesn't matter because it means there's something for you guys to see in the picture bit, and that's coming your way right now. As for Hardwick Village, that consists of former labourers' cottages and farms, including Hardwick Grange. The settlement was created by the landowners, the Dukes of Newcastle, in the later part of the 19th century to serve the park and estate of Clumber. It was designed in a picturesque neo-Elizabethan style, with an asymmetrical aspect designed to give the impression of a traditional village. Hardwick was an ancient hamlet of Worksop Parish, but was not reported in the Domesday Book as we mentioned before. It formed part of one of the two manors that have said to have existed in Clumber before the Norman conquest. Not much more appears to be known of Hardwick's history until the time of the dissolution of the monasteries, during the reign of Henry VIII, when it was mentioned that Hardwick Grange and Clumber Grange, which may have been the two old Saxon manors, were granted to Robert Dighton. Eventually it came into the hands of William Hollis, with it passing down to his eventual descendant John Hollis, the first Duke of Newcastle. From there its history was shared with Clumber. The later dukes erected the cottages in the 1850s, and a school was later built in 1880 and was in use until 1932. Here we find Apleyhead Lodge, as we have now crossed the parish boundary into Elksley. The 18th century gateway and the attached lodges are Grade 1 listed buildings, much like the entrance piers at the southern end of Limetree Avenue which we saw in Carburton. This means, of course, that both entrance gates to Clumber, both at the north and at the south, do not fall within the parish boundaries, which is really weird to think. Apleyhead Lodge overlooks the A614, which has a small cafe here called Friar Tuck's, aptly named, seeing as we're technically in part of Sherwood Forest here. Apleyhead Junction is literally yards from here, where the A614, A57 and A1 all meet. It's a modern junction now, but when the A1 was reimagined a few years ago, it was a large roundabout. Well, there you go, that's it. That is the parish of Clumber and Hardwick. Beautiful part of Nottinghamshire, beautiful part of Bassetlaw. Clumber Park is a childhood memory for me as well, because I used to come here quite a lot as a kid, and even now, I mean, I still get amazed by some of the sights and the sounds you can see in this place. It's fantastic. And even though that little bit of bad planning for Hardwick was a bit of an error on my part, this certainly wasn't, because I always did plan to go up Limetree Avenue from Carburton and up to these amazing gate piers at the north entrance, Apleyhead. And yeah, that's me pretty much done for the day out here in Bassetlaw. And this has been the parish of Clumber and Hardwick, and I'll see you somewhere else in Bassetlaw next time. I've been Andy, and I've been the Village Idiot, and I'm out.